Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another live stream on a Saturday afternoon. So my apologies for last week. The visuals were having a manic breakdown. I didn't know that until afterwards when I was putting in the chapters, and I'm like, what's going on? I've never had that happen before. I've had live streams that glitched for like 5 seconds, but I have never had what happened last week where the whole thing just went crazy. So if this week that this visual isn't coming in clear, my apologies. I will actually try to get a camera and fix this. If you're watching this and it's glitchy, actually do what I do. Just put the video in the background and just listen to me verbally. But I'm so sorry for that because I'm trying to do a good job and get this going, and then to see that, it's like, so frustrating. Also, the chat window's open and I'm looking at it right now. Feel free to chime in with anything you want. It can be on topic, it can be off of topic. If it's off of topic and I think it's interesting, we'll dive into it. Also, after the fact, please comment whether you're seeing this on YouTube. This also goes up along with all my other videos on BitChute. Please chime in. If I don't respond to you immediately, don't take it personally. I'm actually rather slow in reading comments. I don't have time, but I do read everything eventually. All right, let's dive in. I saw something on Facebook. Some folks were having what I'm calling the Great Facebook War of 2023. You know what I mean? People going back and forth, and it was really quite foolish. I don't even remember what it was about, but one person said something and somebody said, "Oh no, you're lost in Maya." And then the other person went, "Oh no, I'm not." And then they were like, "No, yes you are, and you don't know." And it was just like 3 or 4 people talking about, "You're lost and you're lost and you're lost in Maya." It was like elementary school. You have cooties. No, you have cooties. It was so foolish. Really, folks, is this how we're promoting the Dharma, is by accusing others of being lost in Maya? Here's the thing. I don't think anyone really knew what Maya was. It was just like an insult. And it's just so foolish. I understand we all do this if we're online. We all do this sometimes deliberately, sometimes we're not. But it's just like, there's better things to do with our time. If someone really offends you, that's one thing. If someone is wrong, correct them. But if someone accuses you of not being through Maya, I mean, it's just a foolish argument, because how are you going to say, no, I've broken through Maya? How are you going to prove that? Because whatever you say, they're going to counter with you, oh no, that's this. Anyways, it was so stupid, but it ended up making me think, because I had just read something a few days earlier on Maya in this really great book I'm reading, and I'll tell you what it is in a minute. And as I'm reading this, or I should say, I went back and reread the chapter on Maya, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Now, this is a conversation that these Facebook folks would love, but they're lost in kindergarten. Well, for you listening here, I wanted to share a little bit of what this book said about Maya. We all know Maya means illusion. We all learn that pretty much out the gate. But what does that mean? Think about it. What does it really mean? According to this book I read, well, I'd actually never really thought about it. That's what this book told me. So the book says that there are 2 definitions of Maya that predominate. One is from Sri Chaitanya, nearly 600 years ago. Sri Chaitanya said, there's Maya, which is illusion, but once you break through that illusion, underneath is reality, is a real world. Now, 1,000 years earlier, according to the book, Adi Shankara had a different definition. He said, once you break through that illusion, underneath is more illusion. You must break through layers and layers and layers of illusion. Now, I have read some Adi Shankara. It'll be coming up in this channel in quite some time from now. So I can actually verify that that is what he's read. Sorry, that's what he's written. I haven't read much of Sri Chaitanya yet. But it was fascinating to me to suddenly think about that, because I never thought about it. I never thought, well, you break illusion, what's on the other side? Is it more illusion? Is it more illusion? Or is it the real thing? I really never contemplated that. And I wonder if any of these folks on Facebook had. Now, this book takes it a step further, and then it gets really juicy. So according to the book, I should say right now, Sri Chaitanya is the proper person. He is the one with the correct thesis. It's a Vaishnava book. The book actually says that Adi Shankara is not correct because you break through the illusion, you get to another illusion. He actually says that that's an illusion, so then you have to break through that, and then that's another illusion. How far do you go? It's just this irrational, endless quicksand of illusions. And at some point, you have to have reality because the world does exist on some level. So this person says, no, it's just Sri Chaitanya. It may be a thick wall of illusion, but once you break it, you break it. Sri Chaitanya is right. On the other side, there's reality. The book also says, what is illusion? Is illusion dependent on us? Or is illusion dependent on Brahma or Vishnu or Lord Shiva? Is it a static thing or a moving thing? Is it always changing to work with each of us in our crazy lives? Or is it just there and then our crazy lives just sort of are looking at it? What is Maya? What is this illusion? This book I'm citing from takes that even a step further and says, not just is illusion or Maya, excuse me, this thing that's out there, but where does Maya come from? Does it come from Brahma? Does it come from Shiva? Or is it independent of those things? And it's just this illusion thing that we have to break through. I don't know. I'd never thought about it. But to go beyond the basic definition of illusion just blew my mind so much. And I just had to share that with you to make you all sort of think about this. And maybe this is something of interest to you and you can ponder this. Now, these folks on Facebook, I wanted to ask, okay, since a few of you think you've broken through Maya, who is correct, Adi Shankara or Sri Chaitanya? But that would just be foolish because what's the point? Let me share this book with you because it's really great. And I'm actually still reading it, matter of fact. It is this called The Philosophy and Religion of Sri Chaitanya, the Philosophical Background of the Hare Krishna Movement by O.B.L. Kapoor. And this was written, excuse me, I'm totally blanking on the date right now, 1976. I do not know if you can find a copy of this. This edition actually was published in 1994, so maybe it's not as hard as I think. This is an amazing book. I picked it up in a used bookstore, and wow. If you have read Swami Prabhupada's text on Sri Chaitanya, obviously you have some background, and those are good books. If you've read his 3-volume set, Chaitanya, I'm blanking on the name, but you know what I'm talking about. Those are great. But this dives into the theology of it, and he really dives into it. I'm in a chapter right now talking about bhakti. And you know what bhakti is? Love. Well, he goes into the 7 different types of bhakti, and then within those, he's like, do you have bhakti of Krishna where you just, you bow down to him? Or do you have bhakti of Krishna where you will touch him? I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And he's like, well, one form of bhakti means you are just in such reverence of Krishna, you're just in honor of him. But another form of bhakti says, hey, if Krishna wants you to poke him in the shoulder because it's going to make him laugh, that's what you're going to do. You're going to poke the Lord in the shoulder to make him laugh. It's like, wow, unbelievable. And so he starts off on this discussion of Maya, and from there goes into bhakti, and then also on things like love and the aspects of love for the Lord. And he just breaks it all down in this amazing theology, which I never thought of. But now that I'm thinking of it, I hate to say this, it clears away some of the Maya. It really reveals so much more than I ever knew. The first chapter of this book was also really interesting because he talks about Vaishnavism before Sri Chaitanya. And I wasn't really familiar with a lot of that stuff. And I'm like writing down different books that I want to read on this channel. And that's really cool. So if you can find this book and you are into heavy theology, and this is not beginner Hinduism, this is really intense, I absolutely recommend this. It's not that thick. It's it's just solid text here. Totally, this is a great book to hunt up if you want real hardcore theology of Sri Chaitanya and the background of the Hare Krishna movement. So get this. Absolutely, it's worth any money you pay for it. So I saw a video this past week that on the surface looked really good, but then when I dug into it, it made me very uncomfortable. And it is, I guess we could say, to tie it into what I just spoke about, at first it looked good and then I broke through the Maya. No, bad joke. We'll get rid of it. The video was on the law of attraction. Now, you all know the law of attraction. Esther Hicks, perhaps you've read one or many of her books or all of them. Well, you know what it is. If you don't now, you can Google it. There's lots of things, or you can check out videos by her. This video said that law of attraction and Hinduism are basically the same thing. And the implication is, if you are a Hindu, you follow some form of Sanatana Dharma, it doesn't matter what, then you should totally be open to following the law of attraction. This should be right up there with, I don't know, whatever text, Bhagavad Gita. That's what this video said. And it laid out some ideas of, well, here's this in one and here's this in the other, and compared them back and forth. And at first I was like, okay, that's interesting. But then I started to think beyond the surface, and I just was like, no, this is not good. I mean, not that the video is bad or anything. The video is well made, but this idea is not good. But it's something that a lot of us, I feel, do. So this part of today's show is the warning part. Sometimes I feel like I'm often warning on different things, but I really think there's a battle for the soul of Sanatana Dharma these days. I really think we're fighting to keep Sanatana Dharma pure. And that's what this video wasn't doing. So before I get into that, my background in regards to law of attraction, I've obviously read the books. Just up in the last few years, I read them. When I was, I think, 10 or 11 years old, and this is a long time ago, my dad brought home a book that a coworker had recommended. He didn't finish it, but I ended up picking it up, and he got the book at the library, and I was so impressed that I actually renewed it. It's this book. It's called The Magic of Believing by Claude and Bristol from 1948. And it is subtitled The Science of Setting Your Goal and Then Reaching It. And what is that science? Believing. That's it. Just believe. Believe with all your heart. Believe with all your might. Do not let any negative thoughts in. And then work towards your goal. Be open to other things happening. And be patient. And you will achieve your goal. So Claude M. Bristol wrote this book having observed different things. He was in the war. And basically, this book is just story after story after story of people believing. And also techniques of what to do to focus yourself. So he talks about if you want money, to like draw a dollar sign on your bathroom mirror, or to have a piece of paper in your wallet that has something on it. So every time you open up your wallet, you see this piece of paper and you're always reminded of this. And just believe and it will happen. Well, here I am, 10 or 11 years old, very naive, atheist, agnostic household. I saw this and my life changed. Literally, my whole thought process was overnight. And eventually I bought my own copy. This copy has traveled with me around the world. And if I have to bring luggage someplace for a little while, this book's in there. It's been very important to me, though I haven't read it in years. And I just really believe, magic of believing. A few years ago, 2019, my girlfriend passed away, and I had some very strange things happen. She basically came back from the grave. Well, yeah, I guess you could say that, and asked my permission to keep her death journey going. And she needed to ask my forgiveness because she did some really horrible things to me, really messed me up mentally, and was beginning to do it physically. And she was an alcoholic and drank herself to death at 33. It was a waste of a life on some level and very tragic. And it was just horrible. Maybe someday I'll do a video about all the things she did that she came back and spoke to me. And I really don't believe that happening that that's something that could happen, and it doesn't happen to me, but it was weird. So I was really grabbing at different things that talked about after death stuff, trying to just figure out what this weird experience was. And I grabbed at all sorts of things, and somehow I stumbled upon the law of attraction, because Esther Hicks talks about communing with those in death. And I have to be honest, the first time I saw the law of attraction, my first thought was, wow, they've changed this just enough not to be copyright infringement. Because this is magical believing. It's the same thing. I was like, there's just a few little changes they've made. It's the same thing. It's not an original idea. I should mention that Claude and Bristol did not create this idea. He is just one of many people. There's books that came out long before him. I forget the name of them now. And there's been many since him and between Esther Hicks. Like my mom had one growing up, Think and Grow Rich. What is his? Is it Peel? Something Peel, who wrote a book before this. I'm blanking on it right now. I just happened to discover Claude Bristol. He also wrote a book called TNT, which is the same thing, but I wouldn't recommend it. But when I saw Esther Hicks and the law of attraction, I was like, there's nothing new here. This is not an original idea. She completely stole this. She added some other things to it to make it more esoteric, but I was laughing at it. I didn't laugh at it enough to not go out and read the books. I absolutely went and read her. But now I've kind of moved away from that, and my spiritual beliefs in Hinduism have solidified and become more deep than ever in the last few years. And I've kind of pushed this magical believing away. Did it work in my life all these years? I honestly couldn't tell you. But anyways, this is a long diatribe. I probably got off my topic here. What I wanted to say was I saw this video. No, what I wanted to say was to tell you clearly my position so you understand where I'm coming from as I critique this video I saw on Hinduism. It basically lined up these things, as I said, compared them, and happy times. Here's the thing. You can pretty much do that to any religion in the world with any other religion in the world. All religions share something, kind of like all of society shares something. Whatever that society is, wherever it is, whatever language it is, somehow we share these things. You can go back in time and you'll see stories that are shared among cultures, which are like, how did they share this? I was reading just this morning, making a video of the Ramayana, and Rama has to pick up this bow that nobody else has been able to pick up. And it's the same story as Excalibur and the Lady in the Lake with the sword. Is it Sir Lancelot? He had to pull the sword out. Nobody else could do that. Well, how do two nations have the same story? I don't know. These things happen. But just because you can compare two things doesn't mean they're the same. They may look the same, but on the surface is one thing. But when you dig underneath, they may look very, very different. Or they may, well, I'm holding my hands up here. Here's two things of this religion. Here's two fingers. Here's two fingers of this religion. Yeah, they're both fingers. These are all fingers. Guess they must be the same. But what these two fingers can do and what these two fingers can do, it's so completely different. So when we start comparing religions like this, I think we're verging on getting ourselves in trouble. We want to feel good. We want to feel like this and this is the same thing, that they're actually, this is indistinguishable and we can mix and match, but we're going to get ourselves in trouble. So this is in line with the universalism idea of religion. All religions are the same. The Baha'i faith promotes this. This is the foundation of their faith. But I am not a universalist, and I disagree with universalism. I think this is a very dangerous idea if we want, to go back to something I said earlier, to preserve the purity of our religions. So there's a common chatter about Christianity today, that the Christianity we see today is not pure. It's not the Christianity of Jesus, that Christmas isn't Christian. It's a heathen holiday that they adopted. I'm not going to get into that history. Just as an example, conversations that come up of how religions change. So that is, I think, what happens when we start getting to the idea of universalism. When we start saying one religion is just like another because they share a bunch of traits, I think it starts changing those religions. I think, first of all, when you're trying to prove the idea of universalism, that there's two religions the same, I think you end up having to twist those religions around and tweak things and reinterpret them to get things the same. I believe this is what the Baha'i faith does. I believe they are insincere and they interpret things their way to make everything look the same and everything sound the same. In my world, Krishna and Jesus are not the same person. They are different. I do not believe Islam and Hinduism, or Hinduism and Christianity, or Hinduism and the law of attraction are all the same. I don't believe that. I think it requires twisting things and tweaking things and changing things to make things match. And when we start changing things, I think we are setting up a stage where we're going to hurt that religion. We're going to make it impure. Because today we just might be talking about how Hinduism and the law of attraction are the same. It might be a very casual thing, like, they're alike. Then tomorrow someone comes along and they hear that, but they don't have the big context of the conversation. And they're going to be like, oh, I heard Hinduism and law of attraction are the same thing. And then the next day, someone else comes along and repeats that and went, oh, well, they're the same thing. I guess the law of attraction is Vedic. Next thing you know, law of attraction is being taught as a Vedic idea. This is what happens. These ideas purge a system of thought and then seep into it and become part of that system of thought. They become part of the religion, but they're not. They're an outside thing, like Christmas is outside of Christianity, but now people kind of do, well, Christmas and Christianity, they kind of go together. We should go to church on this day, whatever. And it kind of all works out in this weird mess, but it's really not a pure Christian holiday. And if we let Hinduism be trapped in this, it's the same as, eventually people are going to be going, well, law of attraction is a Vedic thing. They already do this. It bugs me. I hate this. I actually saw, auras. So I am very skeptical of the aura and the aura around the body. I believe the origins of the aura come out of Theosophy. That's neither here nor there. I do not think the aura is a Hindu idea. I do not think you will find it in the Vedas or anything else. I have yet to read it in anything I've ever read about. Yet I have seen on websites that it is actually Vedic, that the aura is an Indian idea, but it is so special and it is so amazing and it is so enlightened that it was never written down until Madame Blavatsky wrote it down, and then a new version of auras was rewritten by as a Hootie Ledbetter a few years later, but it wasn't popularized until the next century by a third book that then combined chakras with the idea. But it was just such a great idea that Hinduism, it had it, but it didn't write it down. I'm sorry, I can't believe that. I can't believe that you have scriptures like the Srimad Bhagavatam that describe what God looks like, but yet you don't write down this aura around the body. To me, the aura seems a lot less magical than what God looks like. But that's what this website said, because auras have now become part of Hinduism. They are accepted. So how do we explain that they're not in the scriptures? We explain that it's just like one of the most special things ever. The sad thing was that this website actually is a Hindu website. Now I saw another website that was talking about auras, and it actually said that auras are in all the Upanishads and all the Vedas. You can read about it there. You can read about auras there. Well, I've read them, or I've read some of them, and there's no mention of auras in those texts. And the person on this website, I don't think knows what an Upanishad is. It's just a word. But this is what happens. We have these two ideas and we try to bring them together, or we do bring them together. We say that this idea and this idea are basically the same thing. And eventually they get into a pot and they get mixed together. And then people start saying, well, they are the same because, but yet they have no evidence of that. And it becomes a train wreck of theology. We end up having a situation where we now have a religion full of all these impure outside things. Hopefully you got the gist of what I'm saying here and you understand this, but it really bugs me. It bugs me a lot. So in the 1800s, missionaries used to come into India. And one of the ways they would convert Indians to Christianity was they would come in kind of through the back door. They wouldn't say that Krishna is bad and Shiva and all these other gods you worship are bad. No, what they used to do is literally kind of show that Krishna and Jesus kind of go together, and that if you like one, you should like the other. They tried to connect these two religions by showing how similar they were. Because if they're similar, well, why are you reading the 12 volume or whatever volume Srimad Bhagavatam? My Bible and my New Testament is way shorter. You should read this instead. And why are you worried about 100 texts on Krishna? I just give you one text on Jesus because they're the same guy, right? And they started to do that. They started to compare because the idea was, I can steal you from one religion into the other. The other thing is that they started interpreting the scriptures, which I'm glad they did that because now we have many of them in English. But they would suddenly twist the scriptures to not make them quite so true. So what you had in the 1800s was Christian missionaries promoting some universalism, though it wasn't real and they didn't believe it, but it was all about to deflate Hinduism and to push Christianity up by basically saying they're kind of the same, but come to our side and worship the way we do. You're going to worship Krishna if you come to my church and worship Jesus. It's all the same thing. So come over here and then I'll baptize you and you won't be talking about Krishna anymore. That was what they did. A century plus later, they still do that. This is still done by Christians in India. They promote this universalism of religions and that one religion is the same as the other. So, hey, you guys should do this. Why don't you all be Christians? Why are you worshiping Krishna? It's so complicated and there's so many gods. You could just make it so easier if you just worship Jesus. That's what they do. And it's insincere and it's bad. But now we have sincere believers, to return to what I was talking about earlier, we have sincere believers putting out videos that is basically doing the same thing, but they're not necessarily promoting you to promoting Christianity. They're just pushing anything. As I said, this video was saying that the law of attraction in Hinduism was identical. So why don't you read the law of attraction? Why don't you subscribe to Esther Hicks? Because she's just telling you Hindu stuff. You know, it's so much easier to do her subscription program than to read all these other books and whatever. But it's the exact same thing the Christian missionaries did that so many of us hate and that have hurt Hinduism in the long term by deflating it, by making it impure. And maybe today we're just talking, as I said, but tomorrow someone will talk, they won't have context. The day after that, someone will just start adding to. It's like the telephone game. By the time it gets to the last person, as you whisper, 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 it'll look completely different. So we are now in a fight for the soul of Hinduism. We can see, if we look back in the last, 40 years, yoga, since it's been introduced to this, actually, no, let me back up. Yoga was actually introduced in America in the 1920s. And so since the 1920s, and then when it really got a jump start with George Harrison and Maharishi in the 60s and ISKCON, since then, we can see how yoga has changed. And in America, I can't speak for any other country, but in America, yoga is so removed from Hinduism. It is embarrassing for me anyways. So many yoga people I know nothing about Hinduism. They don't care. They don't believe in the gods. It's meaningless to them. They do whatever they want. It's a DIY religion, and it has nothing to do with nothing from India, but they use all the words and they dress this and whatever. Yoga is now meaningless. It has been totally made devoid. And now I know for a fact of churches that are trying to do yoga. I had a Christian minister reach out to me. She goes, "What do you think of this? My congregation wants to introduce a Christian yoga class." And I went, "What do you think of it?" She's like, "No way." And I said, "Yeah, that's right. Don't do that. You're stealing from my religion. You're putting something into your religion that's foreign. It's not good." So we have seen over the last century what happens when one culture takes from another. And now what I've heard, that this American yoga is now being brought to India, and they're trying to sell it in India. They're trying to say, well, we're doing the authentic yoga that you guys should do. But it's not true. It's all a lie. Well, this is what happens. So yoga is just one example. But what about anything else in Hinduism? In 1,000 years, will Hinduism be extinct? Because it'll be a bunch of stuff and a bunch of words that have lost the meaning, have lost the depth. I don't know. I won't be alive, but I hope not. But right now, we have to start fighting for Sanatana Dharma to keep it pure. I believe that. We have to stop this universalism thing where everything's the same, even though it feels good to do that. That's not what we need to be doing. We need to study the scriptures. We need to learn what the scriptures actually say, not what we want them to say. We have to learn the real religion, the way it really is, and not just sort of bring in anything. Because tomorrow, what are we going to be saying? That the tarot is part of Hinduism? I'm sure they do already. I could go on and on about that. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't. The chat window is open, so feel free to join in or comment after the fact. This is a big discussion. So I want to spend the rest of this show talking about finding your guru, because this is something that I see over and over in Hindu forums in the 20 years that I've been practicing and studying this and other religions. I see all the time, how can I find a guru? Also, I was with a bad guru, or I've had bad experiences, whatever. And I wanted to share my insights and my views on that, things that I've just come across. Also, my own experience, because I once said the same thing. And I had some good and bad experiences with that, in the hopes that maybe there might be some value for one of you out there listening to this, that you may go, oh, that reiterated a fact I had, or I had questions, or, that's a good point, or whatever. Hopefully it'll help. This is my experience. This is all what I've done, what I've experienced firsthand. So I'm just clarifying that this is not, nothing scriptural, nothing whatever. So I want to talk about gurus. Let me take a drink right now in my Baby Yoda Ace Frehley mug. So before we dive into my background and my thoughts on gurus, there are people out there that do not believe that you should put your faith in any human. No human should be your guru. If you have a guru, it's God. If you have a guru, it's Krishna or Rama or whoever you want. I completely understand that. And in my own life, at times I've been like, yeah, I'm going to go with that. I don't really want to get into that today, because that's kind of its own discussion. There are also others that believe that the guru is just life. You do this, you do that, you learn, you have things that happen to you, and that's your guru. Guru is this world that we live in. Yeah, it is sort of, it's the world. And you could say then also, if this world is from Brahma, then the guru is your God. So we go back to the point we just had. But Hinduism, Sanatana Dharma, clearly says over and over in many scriptures that your guru is a person in the world, and you should have a guru. It does not say just live and let live and learn and do stuff. That's not what it says at all. So I'm going to set that talk on guru aside today. There is also a group of people, and excuse me, I have all these notes because I had lots of thoughts and I wanted to keep this somewhat organized. There's a lot of talk about self-guruing, and I want to say I don't necessarily support that, because I think we find ourselves giving ourselves what we want to hear and not giving ourselves any criticism. And we never push ourselves. When you self-guru yourself, it's really easy not to push yourself, to say your life is fine, everyone else is the problem. Hey, if you don't want to read the scriptures today and watch all of Game of Thrones in one sitting, yeah, your self-guru says it's fine. You need to watch all 8 seasons of Game of Thrones, right? Doesn't work like that. That's not what the scriptures say to do either. Though you may have times in your life where you don't have a physical guru with you. You may have to rely on your own your own emotions and your own thoughts. But the idea is, at some point, you have had a guru who gave you the ability to be critical of yourself, who gave you the ability to push yourself. And that's what a guru is supposed to do, is to push you. Because most people really don't want to push themselves. So we need someone else to do it for us through a variety of means. So I'm totally off the self-guru thing. I'm off believing. I'm just not interested. I'm not interested in this all life as a guru. I I actually do promote the idea of having a guru who is a physical person. Now, before I get into my story, one more little point. There is a very heavy debate on whether you should have a guru who is physically here or if it's okay to have someone who is no longer physically in the world. So Prabhupada said that it is okay to have a guru who is not physically present. If they are a true saint and they are a true sage or rishi or whatever, true acharya, then they will be here after the fact. You do not need them physically here. Adi Da Samraj, who is a Neo-Vedanta New Agey type guru, also said the same thing. When he passes, his soul will still be here. Actually, he said that when he goes away, his soul will now be bigger than ever because it won't be stuck in a body. So you have a very traditionalist Swami Prahbupada saying this. You also have a New Age person. That's why I bring both of these folks up, who are both saying death doesn't stop the guru. There is a magazine called the ISKCON Revival Society, IRS. Yeah, that's right. And it's a great magazine. It comes out of either it's produced in England, but it comes out of India. You can subscribe for free online. I'll put a link down below. And the ISKCON Revival Society basically argues against ISKCON, International Society of Krishna Consciousness, and says that Swami Prabhupada is still with us to this day. Here in January 7, 2023, we can still reach out to Swami Prabhupada. He is still here. Death does not matter. It actually argues against ISKCON, which often says, no, you need a physical guru. You absolutely must have someone here who can speak to you face to face or communicate with you or have someone communicate. You need a physical guru. And it argues against ISKCON. It's that the teaching goes against its own teacher. IRS is an amazing thing. And it basically says that the current ISKCON is not the real ISKCON. Check that out. That's like for another video. But according to this group, ISKCON today, they often say that, no, you need a physical guru. Now, if you respect ISKCON and you ignore what the IRS says, then here is another point of view, that you need to have a physical guru. So which is it? Is ISKCON right? Is ISKCON wrong? Is Swami Prabhupada right? Is Adi Da just looking for money after his death to keep his organization going? What is the truth? I don't know if I'm in a position to say if it's what is true and what is not. I will personally say, though, I have been following both gurus who have not been present on this world and gurus who have been present. And I have had some interesting experiences with both. But my personal thing is I want a guru who is right here, right now, alive and well. And if my guru should pass away, I will just find a new one. I will still honor that one, but I will find a new one. I want someone who is present in the world because, I don't know, let's say, we're dealing with Ukraine right now. Yes, I can read something from Swami Prabhupada that talks about world wars and talks about things that are good, bad, and indifferent, and I can reinterpret that in light of the Ukraine. But my guru will actually talk about Ukraine and will talk about things very specific to the actual world. And I like that sense of understanding. I like having a living guru that's living in my world and that can talk about the issues here and now versus reading Ramakrishna where, well, he didn't know about TVs or movies or any of these other things. So while I can interpret, it's different. What happens for me is when you're interpreting Ramakrishna, you then go into, I think, not deliberately, you go into the self-guru stage. You start going, well, what does he say? And how does that relate? What do I think? You start interpreting him according to your own self-guruing. And as I said at the beginning, that's not a good thing. So I'm not going to say whether there living gurus or whatever, dead gurus are legit. Absolutely go for them if you want one. If you connect with a guru, connect with that guru. I personally want a living one. I think there's more value there. I think, though, the guru does continue beyond. I think the guru is still there long after death, but I just want a connection to the real one. So I've bounced around here and I've talked about some ideas, but I want to go now and talk about my experience with gurus and those who I have encountered and sort of followed, which may be of interest to you. It will give you insight to my point of view and where I come from for this channel, more about me, but also it may be of interest to your search as you look for a guru and you want to know good, bad, and different, whatever. So I don't live in India. I'm not around gurus. Usually finding one has been either accidental or online. I have deliberately looked for gurus. I've had friends recommend them. I've had some I've been like, yeah, that's really cool. And then others I'm like, yeah, no, not in my house. Sorry. I never knew what a guru was. I thought a guru was just somebody you looked up to until it was 1997. I grew up as an atheist. I knew nothing about religion. I thought it was all hogwash. In 1997, I discovered a book by Ram Dass on Neem Baba. And instantly I was converted. I loved God. That was it. It was like Thomas, scales fell from my eyes. Sorry, not Thomas. Paul, scales fell from my eyes. And that was it. God existed. And so I learned from this book what a guru was by reading about Neem Baba. Do I consider Neem Baba my guru? No, never has been, but I think he is a great guru. But this is the first time that I ever heard the word guru. Now, not long after this, and I've mentioned this in other videos, I ended up spending some time in the church, and the church doesn't discuss gurus. Jesus is it. You don't have anyone else. You may have saints you pray to, but you don't have gurus. So I sort of lost the idea and didn't investigate it further for some time. Gosh, let's see. It was a couple years later, 2002, I was living in San Francisco and I was subletting a house from a guy there, and he showed me the house, and it was just this little thing in San Francisco. And then I was subletting it for the summer. And so after I moved in, I started opening doors and cabinets in the kitchen. And every time I would open something, there was a face of a guy with an afro and a long gown staring at me. It was Satya Sai Baba. And literally, I'd open or I'd move the closet door. I'm like, oh, it's Satya Sai Baba. And then I'd go into like the bathroom and you close the bathroom door and there's a picture of Satya Sai Baba. And in every cupboard in the kitchen, and they were hidden, so if you came into the house you wouldn't immediately see it. He had some Tibetan banners up in his bedroom, but that was it. But then I discovered these gurus, and then I was laying in his bed, I think my first or second night there, and I was looking at his bookshelf. Only had a few books, and they were all basically Satya Sai Baba books. I'm like, oh wow, this is really interesting. So I told a friend of mine about this who had gotten me the sublet, and he goes, oh yeah, the 5 folks who rent this building out are all Satya Sai Baba people. But I don't know anything about it. But yeah, this guy you're subletting from told me that this is everyone here is a Satya Sai Baba follower. Okay, wow, that's cool. I read all those books that summer. I remember one was Satya Sai Baba and Jesus, and then a few others were what, Howie something. Yeah, I forget now, but I read them all. So that was really the first time I ever discovered, well, not the first time I discovered gurus as I discovered Karoli Baba, but the first time I discovered the devotee relationship firsthand and was really seeing it. And it was really weird. It really kind of freaked me out to open a cupboard door and see this guy. I didn't really understand this concept of the murti and reminding yourself of and whatever. It was very strange. At the same time that I was living in the sublet in San Francisco, I was also practicing Zen at the San Francisco Zen Center. I'm not a Buddhist. I wasn't interested in Buddhism, but I wanted a meditation thing. I just felt I needed that. And though the idea of gurus, I don't think is pushed in Buddhism, you do have your teacher. And there was a guy named Dairyu Wenger who was teaching at the San Francisco Zen Center. And I was really impressed by him. Very intellectual guy. I remember wanting to talk to him more, but I was like, I gotta have something, I gotta pontificate in some way when I'm with him. I can't just say hello because I really respect the guy and I don't want to waste his time. And he was just an amazing fellow who since has left and formed his own Zen group. And it took me into that deeper world of firsthand seeing someone. And there was a guy staying at the Zen Center who had lived in Japan for some years, and he was the assistant to some famous Zazen priest or whatever. And he was like, yeah, you could follow my priest, because I was going to be moving to Japan at the end of the summer. He goes, yeah, you can go to the temple and you can follow him and he can be your teacher or whatever. And it was really interesting to have this experience with people actually following other people. It was very profound for me, and it sort of stuck with me for a few years. And I moved to Japan, and I'm around all these Buddhist temples and Shinto temples and absolutely loving it. And I was teaching English, and it hit me at one point that I needed a guru. I needed to do more than just read books. I needed a living person. I don't know why I thought that. I don't know why I said I need a guru. Maybe it was just an experience that I hadn't had yet, but for some reason I needed it. And I'm sitting online in Japan one night and I'm typing in literally a guru and Hindu guru and whatever guru. And I came across this guy named Adi Da Samraj. And I read his stuff and was like, wow, I don't understand a single word. This sounds like gibberish, but I've never seen anything that looks like this before. I'm just gonna put my name in here so I can download this little short biography or something of him. And that was it. Never thought about it again. I printed out a bunch of stuff and I'm reading it going, oh, well, okay, I don't get any of it, but it looks really cool and it sounds really cool. And being someone who really liked crazy English, I was like, yeah, all right. But a month later, I get this phone call from a devotee and he's like, hey, I live in Tokyo. I was between Kobe and Osaka. And he goes, I'm going to be moving to within 20 minutes of your house in like a month from now. And I was given your name. And I am the only devotee of Adi Da in all of Japan. I'm like, what? Why are you moving? He goes, oh, my girlfriend's there and I've changed jobs, whatever. And I was going to call you before, and then I discovered I was moving, but hey, you want to get together? And I remember it was like, okay, sure. Why not? I was lonely, whatever. So I met this stranger at the bus station and he took me to his house. His girlfriend was sick and he had this little room he had set up with all this stuff with Adi Da, pictures and books and tons of stuff. And he goes, well, here's the guru. Here's some of his art. If you want to talk about him, great. If you don't, you don't. You want any ice cream? It was just like that. He's like, look, I'm really hot. I'm gonna take off my shirt, open the window, look. And we just talked about something else. I remember what we talked about. But his Adi Da's art was there. And I was really impressed by his photography work. I was just like, wow, this is really cool stuff. And then later, my friend moved and left that girlfriend, and him and I ended up getting together. And every time we'd get together, he'd kind of tell me about Adi Da. He gave me a book, The Promised God Man is Here. It's a 500-page biography of Adi Da. And he's like, here, you should read this. Okay. So I took it. A week later, we got together again, and I gave it back to him. And he goes, oh, you didn't read it? And I went, no, I read the whole thing. I literally had 500 pages in a week. My college teachers would have been so proud of me. I'd never done that before. I couldn't put this biography down. It was unbelievable. Next to the book I had discovered on Neem Baba, this was like the next greatest thing I'd ever discovered. And I was like, I'm in. Wow, I'm in. And he ended up sharing with me other books, the Hideo Rosary, and we'd talk more. And he'd even share with me videos that were being done because Adi Da was still alive. And I thought at that point, that was probably the first time I ever said, I may have found a guru. It might be Adi Da Samraj. I ended up moving. My friend moved. We both left Japan, and he went back to his home country. I came back to America. I went through a lot of trauma coming back. It was really hard. I totally forgot about Adi Da, even though I had his books and I kept them aside. I was just surviving. It was a bad time. And I ended up calling up my friend. Oh, no, I know what happened. I ended up moving to New York 2 years after I came back to America. And I knew there was an Adi Da group in New York, but I ended up reaching out to my friend going, hey, how's your guru doing? That literally was what I said. And he's like, oh, he died. wow. Oh, I'm sorry. So when I heard that Adi Da Samraj died, being that I had been so affected and just loved his writings, and my friend, when he had left Japan, had given me a bunch of his books, I felt like I had to make up for lost time. So I immediately reached out to the New York Adi Da group and said, I want to be a part. I want to join your group. And I told them who I was and my background. And they knew who this guy was in Japan. And I'm like, yeah, I'm interested. And I ended up becoming a formal devotee of Adi Da Samraj. It's called a 3C level. There's 4 levels. Big ceremony. It was about 30 of us, big murti of Adi Da, all sorts of things. And I followed him formally and paid my dues and whatever for, I'd say, 6 months or so, and took a bunch of classes. And the more I got closer to the group and the more I delved in Adi Da, the more I was disinterested and just, it didn't click for me. It didn't click for me because he was dead. That didn't bother me in the least. It was his writings and the organization and the people in the group. There was things that happened that I just was like, no, this isn't right. I don't feel right about this. There's some real negative vibes here, some real bad vibes. And I was beginning to have theological disagreements with him. That's basically when I found I didn't really like this Neo-Vedanta stuff and Advaita Vedanta. And so I left Adidam. I just walked away from it. And I actually felt lost for a long time because I got really wrapped up in Adida. I was really wrapped up. I was having groups come over to my house to study, and I was trying to put together like slideshows for the public, and I was really involved, and I just walked away, and it was very disheartening to me, and I felt lost. This happens a lot to people who follow a guru. They leave the guru and they feel lost, and they often go back. And more than once, I have kind of slithered in and tried to hook up with Adidam folks again, and every single time I'm like, no, this isn't where I belong. This isn't right for me. I feel repressed. I may have some things happening that are kind of weird, which maybe I'll go into in some future episode, but something is just not right. Every time I slither back in, though, I have these feelings. I'm like, no, this is wrong. Why am I doing this? Because we want this comfort zone. And we find a comfort zone with a guru and we sort of trap ourselves in it. And we leave the guru and then we come back, we leave, we come back. It's not doing us any good. We need to just leave. But it's very hard to leave. It took me years to officially cut myself from Adidam. Now, during this traumatic time, I discovered that there was Ramakrishna Vivekananda Temple in New York, and there's 2 of them. And the older of the 2 was like, I don't know, 10 blocks from where I lived. And I always wanted to go, but I worked at night. So it was like, oh, whatever. And I was having this weird Adidam thing going on. And then it was like, I guess a year or 2 went by, lost my job, the store closed, and suddenly I had my evenings. So I went over to this Ramakrishna Vivekananda Center, and I went there for 9 months, 4 to 5 nights a week. They had an evening meditation for an hour, and I would be there. Maybe there might be 6 of us, and then twice a week was a talk. Each talk was by a different Swami who lived in the building. And you'd meditate for 45 minutes, and then there would be some chanting and some drums, tabla playing and harmonium playing, and there'd be a murti of Ramakrishna, and there's a murti of Sarada Devi, and the mother Sarada Devi, yeah, that's her name, and then Vivekananda, and it was amazing. And I started reading about the guys, and it was nice. I wanted to do stuff for this little temple. It was in rough shape, and I really wanted to help with the temple. And I'd go to the Swami and go, "What can I do? I'm out of work right now. I don't have much money. I'm home all day. Is there some way that I can contribute to this temple?" And you know what he said to me? "Read more books. Americans need to read more. Read more books." Okay, fine. About a month later, "Swami, I really would like to contribute." "Oh, yes, you should read books." "I'm reading 3 spiritual books right now. How many more do you want me to read?" I literally was reading. I have the 9-volume set of everything Swami Vivekananda wrote. I was reading part of that. I was reading a biography of Ramakrishna. I was reading something else. "Do you want me to read 4 books, 5 books? There's a point you can't read anymore." And it was very disheartening. And then at one point, something sort of happened. They finally asked for my help, but they basically wanted to abuse me. excuse me, and it wasn't good and it wasn't right. And I just was like, yeah, I'm done. And I ended up moving. And and then I almost connected up with the Ramakrishna group here in Portland, Maine, and it was just all kirtan, and people just didn't believe. And I don't want to be a part of something where there's no belief. This was a really tough time for me. Here I'd follow Adi Da. I'd lost it. Then I'd try to hook up with Ramakrishna and Vivekananda. And I think Vivekananda is great. Absolutely learn about him. Ramakrishna is great. I have some theological issues with them, but that's beside the point. I think they're well worth learning about. But I was so lost. Eventually, I discovered over the past, I've been in Maine for 10 years, the Kauai's Hindu monastery that puts out Hinduism Today, though I am not a Shaivite, and some of their stuff I just don't get into. I discovered Srila Prabhupada and ISKCON, and I got into a lot of ISKCON for a little bit, but I have some push and pull issues with ISKCON. A lot of people have these issues. I ended up running into some gurus that I just don't think they're gurus. I didn't hear anything out of their voices that sounded unique to me. It just was like, really? That's really? There was one who went on and on. He used to make a video almost every day, and he'd written a letter to Donald Trump and asking President Trump to bring him to the White House, and together they would change America. And literally for like months, I'm expecting a response back from Donald Trump any day now. He's going to come and I will bring my camera to the White House. Nope, never happened. I doubt the president ever even got the letter, because there's how many letters come into the White House every day? It's mind-boggling. And they only really give the president like 5 to 15 from what I've read. But yet he went on about how great this was going to be and how amazing he was that he wrote this letter to the president. And I'm like, oh my gosh, your ego is really hurting you. And I just ran into a lot of gurus like that who just, it was all about them. It was all about their ego, and they really had nothing to say. It was, I could get just as much out of an astrology read from the New York Times. And that really kind of put me off gurus, and it put me off living gurus. And I was in a position where I was following Adi Da for so long and so intensely that I was really looking for someone who had something interesting to say. Eventually, I found Sri Acharya of Dharma Nation. Sorry, let's try this for a third time. Dharma Nation here on YouTube, and he heads the International Sanatana Dharma Society. And the moment I heard Sri Acharya Ji, it was like 2018, I was blown away by his uniqueness, his depth of knowledge, but yet also the emotional underpinning of that knowledge, his humbleness, and what he said. Actually, I thought at first he was too much. I thought he was arrogant and a prude and maybe all sorts of egotistical, and I just like blown away by him. And he would talk about stuff, and I was just like, why are you talking about this? And I'd watch his videos, and it really kind of like frustrated me. And I realized the problem was me. I then got really into ISKCON, and I started studying a lot of Srila Prabhupada, a lot of basics of devotee life, and a lot of things in the ISKCON world. And I realized that I didn't have a firm foundation in Hinduism that I thought I had. It was a weak foundation. I didn't know stuff. I'd have one or two pieces to the puzzle, but I didn't have the whole puzzle. And so when I would hear Sri Acharya Ji of International Sanatana Dharma Society talk, it wasn't that he was all these things. It was that I wasn't in a place to receive him. So I went and I studied and I learned. And then I came back to him. And I literally had to stop watching him for a while. And I came back to him, and suddenly everything kind of made sense. I was like, oh, wow. Oh, I got what he's talking about now. Oh, I've read this. Oh, it was me. And since then, I have considered him my follower. I've considered him my guru, and I am his follower. Though he says, and I like this, he is your follower too. He is your servant. And I was just like, that's it. But it took me a while to formally become a devotee. I'm now a tithing devotee. Every month I give some money and I watch his videos, and his picture is on my shrine, and he is my guru. And but I was afraid. I was afraid to do that. I've been meaning to talk to him face to face. I have not done that yet. We've almost done that a few times. It just didn't work out. Someday I hope to do that or see him face to face. I just absolutely love him. He connects with me in the way I want to. It's intellectual, it's emotional. He discusses things, and he's opened my world up spiritually in positive ways. I don't feel like he has hurt me, and that's very important. So that's where I am today. I have read about other gurus. I have friends who follow other gurus, and I've read into them, and I've read some of their books, and I've delved into them. But so many of them to me just aren't there. They're not saying anything of interest. Kind of like some of these ISKCON gurus. They're just repeating things anyone could say with a brain who's somewhat intelligent, or anyone who's read a few religious books. Sri Acharya actually says that there is in the world 98% of gurus are fake. They're just people who smooth talk or know what they're talking about or are well organized in their thought or publish books, but they're really not anything there. They're not enlightened. They just whatever. And I believe that. I absolutely agree with that. I think most gurus are really iffy. So I've spent a half hour talking about my background. Hopefully there's been some value there. If there isn't and you skip through it, fine. I would like to now, though, make this video go on a little bit longer than normal and talk about some of the things that I find when I'm presented with a guru, things that I would recommend to you to do to figure out if this is your guru or not, or to figure out if this is someone you should be open to having as a guru. Okay. And before I do that, let me take another glass of water here after coughing. So, one of the things I think a guru should be is scriptural. They should follow scriptures. This does not mean just talking about every so often the Bhagavad Gita. No. This does not mean every so often they cite the Srimad Bhagavatam. No. This means they follow the Bhagavad Gita. They walk the talk. I believe if the scriptures say a guru should act like this, they act like this. I also believe that a guru should be familiar with the scriptures. If you call yourself a guru of Sanatana Dharma, but you've never really read anything beyond the Bhagavad Gita, no, I don't think that's right. Because when you get into the scriptures and when you read about people, whoever it is, and whatever you're reading, you find over and over that these great folks, whether we're talking Adi Shankara, whether we're talking Lord Rama, they're all very intelligent. They're, for their time and their age, they are well read. They'd be like the Thomas Jeffersons of their age, I feel like. They're well studied. You never see anyone come up in the ancient scriptures, oh, so-and-so, this great sage, had never read a word in his life. No, they know stuff. They're well read and they're very familiar with stuff. Now, in the modern age, we have had some gurus. Satya Sai Baba, I believe, is one. Ramakrishna, who were, I think, illiterate or didn't do a lot of reading, but they were still very knowledgeable of different religions and different scriptures. And I think while they may not have read the stuff, they knew the stories. And so I think a guru today needs to be familiar with the scriptures. If they haven't read it, they know the stories. They don't just use the scriptures as a, hey, we're talking about the Bhagavad Gita today. And it's just like a phrase to draw you in. No, it's more than that. They have a familiarity with these scriptures. I think that is so important. And they're in line with the scriptures. They walk the talk. I was talking to someone the other day about Adi Da, and this guy's an Adi Da follower. And he goes, well, I know that Adi Da sometimes acted really poorly, but you know what he wrote, yada, yada. So you shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And I went, no, according to the scriptures, you actually should. If you have a guru who is spouting something, but they don't walk their talk, then what they're spouting is shallow. Actually, at the beginning of the video, I was talking about this book, and this book just has a quote. I just read it this morning about how what the guru says has to be backed up by their own life. They have to be saying what they do. They can't be contradicting it. They can't be acting evil one day and giving you great things the other day. So someone like Adi Da, it's not necessarily evil, but if he smokes pot and then tells you, well, don't do that, it doesn't work like that. The guru is not an exception to his own words. The scriptures say that. The guru must follow their own words. There's a trend now, and Adi Da Samraj is an example of this, where gurus, they're so enlightened that they don't have to follow their own words. They don't have to do the own penances that they want you to do. You hear this from Adi Da all the time. You hear it from other gurus. But the scriptures don't say this. If you read the Ramayana, you'll see over and over stories of gurus who are still doing penances even after the fact. Viswamitra, who was dubbed Maharishi at one point, continued to do penances. The gurus are not exempt, but you hear this. So, essentially, if a guru isn't in line with scripture, is immune to the scriptural injunctions, if they don't know their scripture, I back off. I'm like, this is not an authentic guru. So essentially, none of these new age gurus are authentic for me. Some of them have great degrees in religion, but they're not there. Now, speaking of enlightenment, does a guru have to be enlightened? No, not necessarily. I don't think so, but if you're not following enlightened guru, that's like it's like them talking about your high school teacher in terms of guru. The point is to follow someone who is above and beyond most people. Enlightenment, though, is a funny thing. So no, I think a teacher should be enlightened. They should be a step ahead of us, because otherwise, it's just what the point. The other thing I want to talk about in terms of scripture before I move on is that there are teachers who kind of put up their hand to scriptures. They say, no, don't read the scriptures. They say, I shall reinterpret the scriptures for you. Read my book instead. This is not right. A guru should tell you to read the scriptures. I know last year I actually had a fellow devotee of Sri Acharya reach out to me going, I'm looking for all 108 Upanishads. I think you can tell me where to find it, because Sri Acharya has said I should read all 108. That's amazing. I love the fact. That's one of the things I like about him. He tells you, if you have the time, go ahead and read it. He recommends which versions to read, which translations are good. But I guarantee if you're reading any translation, he'll be happy with that. I have seen other gurus, though, that literally they're like, just give bhakti. Don't read anything. Don't read at all. Read my books. My books are the ones you want to read. I'm not too sure about that. Even Swami Prabhupada, actually, no, I don't know if he did it, but some of his followers I have had say to me, only read Swami Prabhupada's books, and if he didn't write it, don't read it. Don't even read the 6 Goswamis. Don't read Sri Chaitanya. Don't read anything other than the books that Swami Prabhupada has done. Really? No, I'm sorry, I can't do that. For me, the scriptures were written for everybody. That's what they say. They're for everybody. So we should all be able to enjoy them. So if you have a guru who doesn't want you to enjoy the scriptures, who kind of shuts himself off from the scriptures, who wants to reinterpret them, no, that's not right. That's not a guru I think you should be following. That's a guru you should be running from, because it's not about the scriptures. They're now trying to create their own religion, and their religion is going to have a subscription fee. It's going to have lots of stuff. I won't tell you how much money I spent on Adi Da, but it was way more than I was making in a month. So what else did I have here? Oh, does the guru talk about God? This is one of the reasons I left Adi Da, because in the beginning, Adi Da talked about Baba Frijan all the time. And Baba Frijan, Adi Da didn't talk about Baba Frijan. That was him. Adi Da, when he was known as Baba Frijan, talked about God all the time. He said he was a conduit to God. Later, when he changes his name and changes it again, you don't see God mentioned. What he starts saying is, I am the source. You come to me. In the beginning was you go through me to God, and then eventually it's to me. God doesn't come up anymore. You don't talk about God in Adi Da, you talk about Adi Da. Warning sign. They've taken God out of the equation because they can do better by being God. If God isn't talked about by your guru, no, that's not right. Isn't that the whole point, is to discover God? Isn't that why you go to a guru, is to learn more about yourself, more about the world, and more about God? So if your guru is not talking about God, that's something you need to worry about. And you may want to turn around and go someplace else, because they basically replaced God with themselves. And that's not right. None of the great scriptures talk about any great being in that way. They don't talk about end the day with Lord Rama. They talk about ending the day with Lord Rama as a saint or a representative of God. And the idea is you always go beyond these teachers to the next step, much like the teacher takes you beyond yourself to the next step. So if they're not taking you to God, what's the point? If they don't mention God, they're done. Now, if this guru mentions God, and they may mention God like, oh, that universal force or this or whatever, yeah, I'm kind of wishy-washy on that, but that's just me. I want very specific God. The Srimad Bhagavatam tells us what God says. So for me, there's no reason to be wondering what God is like or say that God is this universal thing. No, we know what God's like. It's described very clearly in the Srimad Bhagavatam what God looks like. It's on this channel. You can see those videos. So I don't have this idea of God is just something unnamed and this cosmic universal father, mother in the sky. I don't have that. I don't believe in that, but that's just me. So one thing I always warn people about is if your God threatens you. Now, this threat can come into two ways. It can come in a physical way. If you don't do this, I will punish you. Yet I feel really strongly that that's not correct. The other way is if you leave the guru, they will threaten you with some esoteric thing. This is very common. You see teachers saying that if you leave that teacher, you will be trapped in a lifetime of reincarnation. No. They say your life will go wrong. No, it won't. It will be fine. Now, I mentioned earlier in this, I was talking about when I left Adi Da, I spent some time very confused. And I fell into that trap of believing, oh my gosh, I left my guru and now my life's messed up. I really did think that. And I had to go back to him. Eventually I didn't. And life just kind of moved on. What it was is I just left something familiar and now I was having to rebuild my life. But once I went over to the Ramakrishna Vivekananda thing, was there for 4 nights a week. Yeah, I never thought that I'd mess my life up at all. I felt actually rather fine. I thought it was okay. And I realized these threats, they're just that. They're threats to keep you paying that guru's bills. A real guru doesn't threaten you. A real guru may actually say, hey, if I'm not the one, well, move on. They're not desperate for followers. They're desperate to do God's work. So if they're threatening you, question that. And if they're threatening you physically, they're threatening to do something to you, that's not right at all. You shouldn't be coerced into a guru. Many of you may know the Nixvingum, or however you pronounce it, Nvixm, with what's his face, who was in prison, and his harem of women who he branded. And if you followed that, it's a horrible story, but it's worth reading to see some really bad gurus out there and really bad, some sad women. The women had to give over letters and photos of themselves, blackmail material. No guru is going to ask you for blackmail material. That is not a guru. Well, think about it from another point of view. If God knows everything about you, if God knows your feelings and your thoughts and your life, why does God need to have a guru request blackmail material from you? What's the point? If God wants to punish you, God can do it. Doesn't need information. God has everything at his disposal. So threats are not there. A guru is supposed to move you to another level and to help you see the world, not feel pain. And they will say that the pain helps you see the world better, but does it really? I don't think it does. And I've never seen stories where it did. Now, learning situations they will teach you something, but branding you is not how you break through Maya, to return to the beginning of today's live stream. These are dangerous things. So there are people I know who suffer from the Guru of the Month syndrome, for lack of a better word. Actually, I know one person who kind of suffers from the Guru of the Week syndrome. Every week they have a new guru, and I don't know where they find them. I knew one person who literally every couple months he had a new guru, and I think it had to do with who he was dating at the time and her response to things. I'm not really sure, but it just after a while was like he was telling me that I just needed to give my heart to this guru, and this is the guru, and this is the one. And I read a few things by at least two of the gurus he was interested in, and I didn't think they were that interesting of gurus. But by the time I was sort of figuring out, like, yeah, no, I'm not interested. Well, he was off to somewhere too, as to someone else, on to somebody else who was like the greatest guru ever. Really? I'm sorry. That's not how you have a guru, going through every guru in the book. If you're going to go through every guru in the book and have the guru of the week or the guru of the month syndrome, it's probably better not to have one. Because what are you really getting out of this guru if you're with them and then you're gone? If you're with this one, then you're gone. It's like a soup. And I really think you need to be with someone long enough to let it settle. And 3 months or 1 week isn't long enough. Yes, I let it settle with Adi Da, but then I left. And I'm fine with that. And other gurus and whatever, I settled, and then I moved on. It wasn't settling, like it was like 6 months. I'm not talking about you need to settle with a guru for a year, but to go every week with something, you never get to feel them. And if I hadn't spent 6 months as a devotee of Adi Da, I'd probably still be reading Adi Da books, and I would be lost. I would be lost because my experience with God exploded after I left Adi Da. Because I always just surfaced him. I just was guru of the week when I felt like it. So you have to spend some time with somebody, digest them, and then realize where you're going next. You can't change every week. So if you're in that position of guru of the month, slow down. Just slow down a bit. Digest someone, figure out where you are, and then feel if you need to move on. That's just my feeling on that. So let's see. What else did I want to talk about? Oh, openness to being a devotee of someone. I think this is something that comes up a lot, and I agree with this. You need to be open to a guru. The old saying is the guru will find you. You can't find the guru. I don't know if that's true or not, but I do know you won't find a guru if you're trying to find one with your ego, if you're trying to find one with your arrogance, if you're trying to find an guru who you can impress by your massive intelligence. You're not going to find one. That's not how you're going to find a guru. That's how you find followers to be a guru. If you're looking for a guru to solve all your problems, I don't think that's what a guru is. You just have to be open. You just have to be open and let it happen. Let the guru come. And it may take patience. It might take some time. It might take years to find it. You might go through, lots of folks like me, you might go through years without one. You might be in a point where it's Kama Sutra. No, sorry, reading something right here. It's not Kama Sutra. Self-guru, and you are self-guruing because you can't find one. That's just the way it is. Get to what I'm reading here. The next point. Don't go to a guru for sex or sex issues. I've read the Kama Sutra. It's on this channel. I don't like it. I do not consider it a religious text. It is a text on how to bang, bang, bang. And that's about it. I think it has some really horrible things in it. So often gurus combine sex with enlightenment, but according to the Kama Sutra, I don't see it. I don't see that. It's not in there. I've read the whole thing, and you can see these videos. I don't think sex has to do with it. Sex energy, yes. But a guru that's promoting themselves as you're going to get sex, or you're going to do this, and I'm going to have sex with you. Yeah, back away from that. That's not right. That's not enlightenment. Actually, we read in the Srimad Bhagavatam of kings and whatever who fell for women, and they lived with them and they had a great time. And then at the end of the day, we're like, yeah, all I did was have sex. I didn't actually achieve anything. I actually put myself behind. I was reading this morning the Ramayana, and sage Viswamitra is lured by a woman and spends 10 years with her and then suddenly goes, I just wasted 10 years. It wasn't worth it. So sex doesn't get you there according to the scriptures. Sex can actually hold you back. Sex addiction is a whole nother ball game. Let's see if there was anything else on my list. I'm probably leaving out some things. Oh, yes, there was something here. I knew there was, I wanted to talk about. I have this long, there's 3 pages of notes that I've taken of just stuff, and I've been hitting it back and forth. This is the last bit that I wanted to talk about. And let me take a drink here. The show is going long, and I knew it would, but hopefully there's been some valuable things in it. I wanted to talk on this last bit, just in summary, on some thoughts I wrote down earlier this week on a real guru. I'm just going to kind of read this to you. Some of it I might have said already in the last hour. So, as I previously said, for me, a real guru must walk their talk. You can't have a bad guru who says good things. They got to walk their talk. They should be scriptural. They should follow the scriptures. They shouldn't be anti-scriptural. Also, don't be fooled by fancy words. A guru is not words. A guru might be silent, like Mahababa. Having fancy words and dropping quantum this and big words doesn't make one a guru. It just makes one with a good vocabulary. Shakespeare is not a guru. Neither is Herman Melville or James Joyce. Fancy words often trap people because you think someone knows more than them because they're talking about your cosmic manifestations on the quantum level of the Vishnu Loka. It means nothing, though. Eloquence is a trap. I was trapped by Adi Da. I read his writings and thought this is amazing. And as a writer myself, I was amazed by that. And I read, sorry, my heat just came on. I read The Mummery and I thought this is a great novel. And then I realized I was trapped by the eloquence of Adi Da Samraj. I wasn't trapped by what he said. I thought what he said was blah. And now later on, I have major disagreements with it. I was trapped by how he said it because I had thought eloquence equals spiritual enlightenment, but it doesn't. Trust your instincts. Don't jump in completely. This is what I said earlier. Or actually, I don't think I did say this, matter of fact. Feel free to test the waters on a guru. Read a book. Reading books doesn't hurt anybody. Reach out to somebody if you want to. Reach out to the guru or someone in the group, whatever. But I do not recommend jumping in completely all the way. I did it with Adi Da, and I realized I didn't like what I saw. Had I done some more research, I probably would have found that out anyways. Also, entrust your instincts is do your research. I did my research on Adi Da, but I excused all the negative stuff about him. Should I have? Should I not have? Whatever. It was in a state of mind. I was sort of self-guruing. I was saying, oh, I know this and it's going to be fine and I'm not going to get trapped like anyone else and I'll be a devotee of his for years to come. Yeah, that didn't happen. I didn't really trust my instincts. I kind of did to a limit. A guru who tells you constantly that they're the greatest thing on earth, yeah, I don't know if that's really someone you should follow. A guru who tells you constantly that they are better than you, I also don't trust that because there's a line, and I forget where it is, that actually I think it's from my guru Sri Acharya in one of his books. He says the student bows down to the master, but the master also bows down to the student. So it's a two-way street. The guru serves the student. And if your guru is not serving you as you serve them, yeah, no, that's something else. That's something else. Often the great gurus do not have big organizations. There's some great gurus out there. Sri Acharya I mentioned. I have not yet mentioned Santosha Tantra, but she is really cool. You can find her on Source Transmission here on YouTube. She does a lot with women in spirituality, and she's in California. She's a painter and I think a photographer, and she's really, really cool. Absolutely awesome. Does not have a huge organization. I will also confess that while I got into Shiracharji, I was afraid to become a member, and I found his tax returns, and I looked at them. They were public because he's a 401cc, whatever. He's a nonprofit, and I realized, okay, this guy's not a multi-billionaire. Yeah, I'll give him my money. I'm happy to do that. He needs my money. He can use my money. He doesn't have. Yes, he has a lot of people on YouTube, but his organization isn't like billions of people. It's not like Teal Swan or whatever. So just because someone has a big organization doesn't mean that they are a great guru. Size of your group doesn't actually mean anything. Ramana Maharshi didn't have an organization at all, and he's one of the greatest gurus. And the last thing is a guru is not above the law. And it doesn't matter what the law is. The law of the country is the law of the country. A guru might be a spiritual leader, but that does not mean that they are exempt from breaking laws. They will be punished just like anybody else. And if you have a guru who is saying, well, I can do whatever I want because I'm part of this, that's wrong. They cannot, and they should not. I truly believe we need to punish more of our religious leaders who break the law. No question about it. You cannot, you're not walking your talk. You're not walking your talk, because you don't see anywhere in the ancient scriptures the scripture saying, and Rama could do whatever he wanted, didn't care, laws didn't apply to him. It doesn't say that at all. Doesn't say that at all. But these gurus say they are. So if your guru is above the law, that is not a guru to be following. That's a guru who is danger. Now, I've jumped around a lot here. I hope there's been some value in this talk. This is longer than a normal episode and a little bit different, and I went into a bunch of tangents. And feel free to skip around. That's why I put in the chapter bits after the fact. I hope there's value. Let me know if there's value. Also, let me know if I've missed something. If nothing else, I have just opened myself up to you a little bit on this channel to let you know where I come from, in case you're watching this channel and, okay, well, Aaron reads these scriptures, but who is this guy, or where does he come from, or whatever. I've left some things out, obviously, and I'm looking at the time. I probably could have kept going, but I don't really want to make this forever long. I do have other things to do with my day. But now you have some idea of where I come from and some of my points of view. If you came to me 10 years ago, obviously things were very different. I would love to hear about your journey and what you found. There are great gurus out there I have not mentioned who I think are legit. I think, though, it's very few. I think there's a lot of great teachers out there, but they're not really gurus. They're just good teachers. They're okay, too. I think the journey to find your guru is unique for everybody. I do think, though, if your ego is huge, you're not going to find it. And you're using your groin, you're not going to find it. Or if you're using money, you're not going to find it. You can't find a guru via materialism. You have to find a guru with your soul. That I do believe. So I'm going to wrap this show up now. Anyone who's sat through this, I appreciate it. Anyone who's chimed in, comments, and watched previous episodes, thank you very much. I try to make these themes that I talk about relevant to you, relevant to society, things that are just around me versus discussing scripture or stuff. All of this is my personal experience, but I welcome you to put down in the comments your personal experience, your thoughts, things that I'm leaving out. And it's very likely that I am leaving out stuff, as I am talking somewhat off the cuff here. But feel free to share. If someone brings something up, I'm happy to return to this topic. Or if you don't want me to talk, if you don't want me to return to it, I won't. So yeah, I think that's a great place to stop. I'm going to take a drink now. Sorry about the heat right behind you. Here it is, January 7th. There's actually snow on the ground out there. And wherever you are, thank you for watching. Hope all is well. Please check out the rest of my videos as we read through the scriptures. New video every other day. And subscribe. I plan to do a live stream on something probably once a week. So until next time, thank you so much. And my parting words, as always, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.